So, Andrew, how would you describe your experience as a former Michigan State student athlete?
Well, I would say the first thing and probably the biggest thing is it was a huge privilege to get to represent, not only the area I came from, from Pennsylvania, but also this university, I mean, I don't think that people realize the privilege and the responsibility that we have and the ability that we can, impart an impact on other people and future generations and individuals and, kids that look up to us. I think, that has great responsibility associated with it. And I think, as a former student athlete, being able to, represent this school and help guide and represent, the values this institution has, I think that's something that, is, really one of the greatest benefits and one of the greatest privileges that we have as not only human beings but as student athletes. So, this school has provided a lot of opportunities for me to grow as a leader and an individual, as a teammate, so, and just as a person in general. I think that, there are great, benefits and opportunities, and like I said, just overall, being a Michigan State athlete is a huge privilege.
All right. Are you active? Would you say that you're active on social media?
So I mean, I'm kind of active in the sense that I use it. So I use social media really just to not being weird, but just to creep on, different things and just to keep really up to date. Honestly, I use it as my news, so our parents probably use newspapers and magazines and stuff like that. Obviously that stuff's becoming totally obsolete now with technology and social media. So I really just use it for, that purpose, just to keep up with people's lives. I don't actually ever really post anything, whether it might be a picture on Instagram or something here or there, but I really just, like I said, I just use it really to get my news information.
Sure. So what platform of social media would you say you use the most in terms of Twitter, Instagram?
That's actually a really good question. I mean, I can guarantee you I know I use Facebook the least just because I don't really use it, to actually, I don't use any of them to post stuff, but other than Instagram, but that one, I just really use it to keep up to date with old high school friends I never see. I would say Twitter is actually the one I'm probably on the most, but it's the one that I'm least interactive with in the sense of posting and things of that nature. I don't actually ever really, post anything. I don't feel as if anyone really cares about, what my opinion is on a topic. So it's what's the point of posting,
Sure.
So I never actually post on that. And Instagram, I'm very, wishy-washy. I'll post maybe once every month or a couple weeks. I don't really use it that often for sure.
Okay. So do you still stay connected with Michigan State sports on social media, even though your time at the university is over?
I mean, since I was on the soccer team, I definitely, keep up to date with that kind of stuff. It's kind of hard because, unless you have a BTN to go account, it's kind of hard to keep up with, most of the games because they're not really all broadcasted on even national TV. And even when they are on national TV, not everyone has the Big Ten network, so it's kind of hard to always, keep up to date in regards to actually watching games live and when they're happening. So, I mean, definitely on Twitter, for example, I follow Michigan State Soccer, and I get all the live tweets from all the games and things like that. And another thing is, even when I'm, not near TV or something, but I want to know the score of, a football game or even a basketball game or something, it's pretty easy just to access that, via Twitter and just see, either the score, or who's playing well and things of that nature. So, yeah, I mean, I would say that I definitely keep up to date with it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So do you think that the NCAA or a specific university should be responsible for what their athletes post on social media?
Ooh, good question. So, once the athlete, in my opinion, once the athlete actually decides to post something, I don't think it's the university's responsibility to necessarily, either condone that action or that tweet or whatever it is. But at the same time, I don't think that a university has to accept it. I don't think they have to reject it unless it's something obviously overtly, racist or just morally or ethically wrong, and it doesn't go against and it goes against the university's beliefs and their own mission statements and things of that nature. But I mean, at the same time, I don't think it's the university's responsibility to help that student athlete, with whatever repercussions occur because of what they posted. So I mean, I definitely think the university just to cover its butt so they don't have to do any of that kind of like damage control. I think it's smart that they should probably have like social media days with like PR people and say like, hey, you don't really understand, but your tweet, depending on the sports team you're with, could reach hundreds of thousands of people, in like a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I definitely think that if they would have, classes and stuff to educate, athletes on the proper ways to use social media, and then obviously the negative consequences that are associated with, a really controversial tweet or post or whatever it might be, I definitely think that could help mitigate those problems and those issues that some of these universities face when, a person decides to go into social media and say, something that's probably not the smartest thing to say.
Sure.
For sure, yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily the university's responsibility once that actually tweet is posted. I mean, that's obviously the student-athlete's right to free speech to say that. But I also think, the university is going to have to obviously come out with some sort of damage control just, to say like, hey, they believe that, that's not our belief. So, yeah, I think they don't have any responsibility, but I think that they, they're inevitably going to be, saying something
Mm-hmm.
if it's, controversial. So, not their responsibility, but at the same time, like, they probably, should have some sort of class or something to educate just in order to prevent any of that kind of stuff from happening.
Sure. So, I don't want you to say any names here, but do you ever remember a time of one of your fellow soccer players or student athletes being disciplined for something that they put on social media?
Actually, yeah. My freshman year, it wasn't anything because it wasn't anything highly controversial that they said or anything like that. But there was actually a recruit from another sports team that was actually on campus, and he was actually in Brody. Just checking out the facility, getting something to eat real quick with the basketball team actually. And one of our players, I mean, it was a pretty big time recruit, so one of our players thought it was super cool that this big time recruit was at MSU, and they're like, oh man, I'm going to tweet about this. Well, I mean, that's a recruiting violation. You're not allowed to tweet when prospective students are on campus. So he tweeted something like that. It actually blew up. I'm pretty sure it made CBS News, or it made really high level sports and news agencies and media firms and stuff like that. So it was actually a huge deal, and I don't know if anyone got in any trouble. I know his I think it was Twitter he posted on. I think his Twitter had to be deleted or something like that, so that no one could actually see any of that kind of stuff anymore. I don't think it was serious in the sense that he got in that much trouble, but he definitely got a firm talking to from our athletic director and stuff like that, and definitely our coaches. So
Sure.
I think his rights were a little bit on halt there after tweeting something like that and violating NCAA rules. So
Okay.
that's one incident anyway.
So these days, a lot of programs, such as the Louisville basketball program, for instance, they have kind of prohibited their student athletes from using social media during the season, kind of take away the distraction. Do you find that unconstitutional for a university to ban their athletes from social media?
For me, it's goes down to two things, just the type of school. The main thing is the type of school that it is. So if it's a private school, I feel as if that university can obviously make whatever decision they want in regards to handling their student athletes' social media, just based on the fact that there's really no federal funding involved in that school whatsoever. In terms of tuition and things of that nature. But if it's a public school, that and I would say most state schools, like Michigan State is, it has a lot of federal funding invested in it, so at that, in my opinion there, that's where the Constitution comes in, and, the right to free speech, and I think is covered, that, Twitter and social media, in my opinion, is covered in that sense. So really, I think a school like Louisville probably shouldn't, be mandating that their student athletes, especially the basketball team in this case, shouldn't be able to tweet or anything or have any social media access. I think that's a little bit unnecessary. I think with the proper, education on social media and the positive and negative things that can come out of it, I think that, that's just violating, by restricting it, that's just violating their ability to have free speech. And so I don't really think, in that sense, a state school like that should really be prohibiting its student athletes from, participating in social media. I think that's just unconstitutional. I think it's really unnecessary too. Especially because, like I said, they're, 18 to like 23-year-old kids. I mean, it's not like they're obviously things that you say now can easily jeopardize your future, but like I'm sure that not too many people are saying highly ridiculous things on there that are gonna be like, oh hey, like a future employer's gonna be like, hey, like we don't want you. So I don't know. I think it's a little dumb, but I guess if it stops any negative things from happening on social media for them, I guess it's working, and I guess it works for them. They can continue to do it, but I think it's just a little stupid.
Okay, so do you think it matters that, let's say, a revenue-making sport like a football or a basketball, one of their players were to say something controversial as opposed to a student athlete in a non-revenue-making sport such as soccer, track and field, or sports of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, more notable sports like football and, like you said, profit generating sports, I definitely think those players, have a significantly greater access to, followers. I mean, there's no doubt that half of our football team probably has, like, not half, but, the big time guys on our football team probably have anywhere from, 10 to 30,000 followers. I don't have anywhere close to that number of followers. So obviously something that they say, is going to be, directly accessed by, like thousands of people right away. And I mean, if enough people retweet that and get that in enough, timelines and social media, main pages, and it gets, retweeted, 100,000 times, that's just now millions of people that are most likely going to come in contact with that at some point, So I definitely think that, bigger time sports like profit generating and revenue generating sports like football, basketball, I definitely think that they have a greater access and a greater market. But I also think that, student athletes, it depends on the ridiculousness of obviously what you say, but if it's something really, really crazy, I definitely think that, if the right person sees it and the right person retweets it or favorites it or something, that now can get access to all their followers, which could be hundreds of thousands. So, I mean, I definitely think football has an easier route to get mainstream, but I definitely think that, smaller sports like soccer, track and field, all those, I definitely think that those sports, it could go mainstream for them. I just think it's much more likely for obviously a bigger time player that has more followers to get, their tweet out there and in the media quicker. I definitely think it's easier for them than a smaller sport.
Okay, sure. So like you said, athletes are everywhere on social media, and they have huge followings typically, especially when you get up to the professional ranks.
Yeah.
Do you ever notice or think that other factors about the athlete's identity come into play when they're being viewed on social media, such as race, sexual orientation, or class?
I mean, I don't think you even need to be an athlete, for that to happen. I mean, I definitely think that athletes have to be a little bit more careful with the stuff they post, just because like they have so many more followers than most people.
Sure.
I definitely think that anybody, can have those things associated with them depending on the things they say. Obviously, it doesn't matter that you're famous or not. But I mean, like I said, professional athletes obviously have such huge followings that everything that they say is scrutinized and stigmatized just so quickly that they have to be very, very careful with any word choices they use. Anything that could even be like misconstrued as slightly racist or bigoted or anything of that nature. So I definitely think the good old read it 3 or 4 times, or like, hey, would my grandma be happy if she read what I just posted or anything. I think that rule should come into play when you're like, about to post anything, but especially in professional athletes' case, because that can literally just end their career with teams not wanting to deal with stupid stuff like social media problems and the media attention that's associated with that. So yeah, I mean, yes, to answer your question, I think that a lot of what you say could be misconstrued as that, especially as an athlete.
All right. Well, Andrew, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, Connor, no problem, man. Thanks.